Hey everyone, welcome to Fighting Over the Card Catalog, a snarky look back on young adult novels of the 80s and 90s. I'm Jess.
And I'm Steven, and I'm here to make my wife happy.
Yeah, you are. How's your week?
It was very good. My back is hurting now, but I got to see the grandkid for the first time. You know,
The male grandkid.
The male grandson.
Yes.
I saw him.
I did too. I haven't seen him since July.
Yeah, I saw him for a couple hours at Christmas, and then that's been it since July. So he's about 1.5 now, and is walking and saying a couple of words.
Mainly more. And look.
Yeah, it was a very good time. Went to the zoo outdoors with him, and for the most part, people were social distancing, but there were some assholes there as well.
And it was just crowded because it was spring break.
Yeah,
for a lot of people.
There were guys walking around with guys and girls, I should say, men and women walking around with masks pulled down.
Yeah.
And then not social distancing on top of that, just like stepping right in front of people.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah, I don't think I was pleasantly surprised by the mask situation overall.
Yeah.
Honestly, because the Dallas Zoo is, despite Greg Abbott saying that we don't need to wear masks anymore, fortunately, quite a lot of places in Texas are still requiring it as, just for their business. And Dallas Zoo is one of them. And yeah, there were way more people wearing their mask properly than I thought.
And just so people know, there is no constitutional right to go into a business if you do not follow that business's rules, such as no shoes, no shirt, no service, as well as no mask, no service.
Right.
So you do not have a constitutional right, despite all of the people you see on these videos saying they do. It makes me wonder how many of these people have actually read the Constitution, because it has nothing to do with that.
With private businesses.
Yeah.
But anyways, great time.
Often I think they get the Bill of Rights mixed up as well with the Constitution, because they talk about their constitutional right to bear arms, and it's the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, that's the Second Amendment. Yeah.
But anyway.
Great fun on Thursday. Dax and one of our dogs don't know what to make of each other. They want to play so badly. But Millie barks really loud when she wants to play. And it sounds scary because she's a big dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's a herding dog, so she tries to herd with her butt, which would just knock a toddler over.
Yep.
And gets a little nippy. She's never actually nipped skin, but she nips towards you.
She has nipped my skin before.
Oh, you.
But not
the babies.
She's never intentionally punctured me when she's been
No,
like
you
that.
just hit your hand
there
on the tooth.
There have been times that skin has been punctured, but it was unintentionally. And because I was playing just as hard as she was. Yeah,
that's different from her herding nip.
Like, and of course that scared
over there.
My daughter, and she doesn't want her to. But then when she wasn't around, Dax would actually kind of just like run by her and look at her and then stop in front of her.
Yeah, he was so irritated this one time when he ran by her and Millie didn't do anything, and he stopped and he turned around and he looked at her like, "Hey, what's up? We're doing this, right?"
Don't you see me?
Yeah, he's egging her on. Yeah, it's going to be really fun once he's bigger and can't get knocked over so easily. But I think if Millie could lick and herd toddlers 24/7, she'd be so happy. It's her favorite thing.
And we went and looked at properties yesterday.
Yeah.
And that was disappointing for the most part.
Yeah. There
was one property we really liked, but
we're mainly looking at land.
It's so expensive.
Yeah.
But
it's so pretty.
It used to be everybody was moving to this area because everything was so inexpensive, but
the area we're in now.
Yeah, we've had like 10% to 15% increases in property values for like the last 8 years now. So everything is basically doubled what it was, what you could purchase for 7 or 8 years ago. And it's very frustrating when you're looking at properties and the things that are affordable are because they're way off the beaten path and on gravel roads and have no infrastructure. And anyway. But it was good driving around with you.
Yeah, that was fun. So yeah, good week. I have no segue. So
speaking of good weeks, here's a good book.
There you go. Anastasia, Ask Your Analyst by Lois Lowry, published in 1984. Would you like to tell us about it, please?
No one understands 13-year-old Anastasia Krupnik, least of all her parents and her little brother Sam, who happens to be a genius. They're such an embarrassment. Why can't they be normal like Anastasia? Then presto! Anastasia realizes that she has the problem, not her relatives, and she must find help immediately. There's not a moment to lose. Though her parents insist she's normal and won't send her to an analyst, that doesn't stop Anastasia. What will happen if they find out that Anastasia is secretly telling her troubles to the most famous analyst in the world?
What will happen?
What will happen?
Do you have a guess?
My guess is that pretty much nothing will happen. Her parents will be like, oh, okay.
Because they're awesome mom and awesome dad. And that's the end of the book. The end. See you next week. So, Anastasia busts in from school one day with a pair of gerbils named Romeo and Juliet. And awesome mom is less than thrilled. Anastasia tells her mom, that's stupid. Her mother sighed. I know it's stupid, but Anastasia, honestly, I have a rodent phobia. I can see that. You look very pale. I'm concerned about you, Mom. That's why it's important to get used to Romeo and Juliet and overcome this very serious phobia that you have. She's just trying to help. See, Anastasia's already into exposure therapy before even getting her analyst.
Yeah.
Anastasia says she needs a cuddlier pet than good old Frank the goldfish. And besides, she's going to mate them and use them as her science fair project.
But how are they cuddly?
Gerbils?
Yeah.
Gerbils are cuddly.
You hold them in your hand. You don't, cuddle them.
Uh-huh. They'll get up under your neck and go like that. And
I guess.
It's true. Anyway, this doesn't go over well with awesome mom either. And Anastasia says she's just thinking about Sam. It's Sam's chance for sex education. Right there in his very own home. He can see my gerbils having babies. Sam doesn't know anything about sex yet. Anastasia, her mother said inside, Sam's not interested in sex. He's only 3. So they make a bet with Anastasia saying he is interested. So they ask him and spell out the word at his request. And he leaves the room for a minute and comes back and he says he's very interested in sex. But Anastasia admits she's been teaching him Scrabble and X is an 8-point letter. So, so Anastasia gets to keep Romeo and Juliet. Sam wants to name one Nikki because it looks like this ugly kid at his school who also bites like a gerbil. Anastasia comes home the next day to find the vacuum cleaner with a note from Awesome Mom saying she can't clean her room anymore because the gerbils are in there. So Anastasia gets into a whole big tizzy and goes and finds Awesome Mom with Sam painting oatmeal boxes. And she's so irritated. She looks at the box and says, the Quaker Oats man was smiling his patronizing smile at Anastasia. That was all she needed to be leered at by Mr. Quaker Oats when she was already furious. I hate that guy's looks, Anastasia said, frowning. He looks so wholesome. I wish someone would make him eat sugary cereal filled with chemical additives. Dang, bring that heat, Anastasia. So after being grumpy about dinner, Anastasia takes Awesome Mom to the kitchen for a very serious conversation. Mom, she said as gently as she could, I believe you are entering menopause. Beer, her mother said after a long silence. She stood up and opened the refrigerator. I am going to have a beer. Typical, murmured Anastasia. Typical escape mechanism. See, she really does already know a lot of psychological stuff.
Yeah. And human behavior.
She thinks it's because Awesome Mom has become very weird lately. And Anastasia's embarrassed just by all the things. But yeah, it turns out Anastasia's just 13. And it's normal to hate your mom. Because hormones and shit. Did you hate your parents when you were 13?
I hated their restrictions. I already hated my dad, so that's not a stretch. But by 13, I was living with my mom as a single parent and just having to see my dad on the weekends. And he wasn't so bad then because basically...
Weekend dad.
Yeah. Basically, we had like chili dogs on Friday and hamburgers on Saturday and... got to watch HBO and sit around his house and mainly didn't interact with him at all.
That's great.
So yeah, that was pretty good. But when he was living with us, man, he was authoritarian. And, you know, there were instances like coming home and finding the lights on in the house. And it didn't matter who turned the lights on. Everybody got a spanking.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's a good reason for not liking him. I'm talking about the hormonal 13-year-old. But
yeah, saying that at the same time, there were times when I definitely was not a fan of my mom.
Yeah.
And it was mostly because of restrictions and rules that she gave me that I was like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not fair. It was my whole thing of fairness. But at the same time, I know, teenagers are thinking with their amygdala and not with their frontal cortex.
But you didn't know that then.
Yeah, and so it is definitely hormones and not mature.
Were you
thinking.
Around 13-ish when you threw that book at your mom?
I was probably around 12. Yeah, so it was pretty close.
Yeah, I remember one day I was staying late after school doing something with my friends, and my mom came into the school and into this classroom and talked to a teacher. I don't think I was in trouble. I was very rarely in trouble. But I remember I got so upset, I ended up screaming at her in front of the teacher and my friends. And I don't know what it was about, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that was just a hormonal.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably not a delightful 13-year-old, but
yeah.
It's probably something embarrassing. I thought. Were you embarrassed by your mom ever? Or just irritated with rules? The embarrassing parts were stuff like she came out onto the football field one time when Todd got injured in football. Yeah, so things like that were a little bit embarrassing. But, yeah. Did he get real mad at her?
I don't remember his reaction. I think it was pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't think of other instances specifically.
Wow. All right.
But you did?
Constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still kind of am, but.
Yeah, there were probably a lot of mom.
Yeah. I mean, just today on Facebook, she told you how much I rolled my eyes when I was younger, and yeah.
I'm glad I kind of recognized that in my own kids. I already had that in the back of my mind that once they hit being a teenager, there's a lot of hormone driven stuff, and there would be a lot of times where they start getting upset, and I'd say, you need to settle down. I know you're being hormonal right now, and
that would have pissed me off even
you need
more.
To use your mind a little more.
See, I would have taken that as you're invalidating my feelings, because they are your feelings, even though it's caused by hormonal stuff. That's how I would have taken it as a 13-year-old.
Right, but there's an understanding of overreacting versus what would you call it? Equal reaction to something. Overreacting would be me throwing a book at somebody.
Yes, that is true.
Me arguing and storming to my room, probably I would see that as an equal reaction to some things.
But, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So, with all this, Anastasia insists she needs to see a psychiatrist. But awesome parents say no. Because for one thing, it's expensive. Because apparently being a professor at Harvard doesn't pay a lot. And he makes no money on his poetry. She doesn't make much money on her art. And besides, Anastasia is not emotionally disturbed. She's simply having normal emotions. See, they're validating her emotions, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, but it's also good if you can to get support to help understand that. And
it would be.
And so seeing a professional would be good, but as in my family, everything was predicated on money. It was like, yeah, I know you need a dentist. Sorry, we can't afford it.
Right.
Yeah, I know you need to go to the doctor for an ingrown toenail, but sorry, we can't afford it.
American healthcare.
Do you want to eat food this month, or do you want to get your toe fixed?
Right. Yeah. So you never saw a shrink when you were a kid? No. They tried to make me.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it became very obvious I was depressed when I was 14. But I just refused to talk. Like, I just sat there silent the entire time. It's like, you can make me come here, I guess, but you cannot make me talk. So that didn't last very long. It probably would have been good for me too, but I was 14 and was not having it.
Yeah, I certainly didn't know how to process my emotions, and there were times when it absolutely would have been good to have somebody I could talk to and help me understand this is normal. And
would you have talked though?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess it would have been.
I mean, would you have gone voluntarily if it had been suggested?
Maybe because at specific times, probably because there were periods where I felt suicidal, and I knew I was having bad issues, and I didn't ask for help. But if somebody had come to me and said, "Hey, we would like to get you help," then I probably would have jumped at that.
Okay, interesting. And keeping in mind that's probably not too. You're about the same age as Anastasia here. So I'm trying to think of any like societal what's the word I'm looking for? People weren't down with self-care and there was stigma. That's what it was.
Okay.
Societal stigma on mental health care. Was there that you were aware of then?
I don't think it was prevalent enough where I came from.
Yeah.
For anybody to even discuss it or talk about it.
Uh-huh.
It just wasn't. It wasn't even in people's vocabulary yet.
Okay. So there was nothing to hate if they didn't know it.
I guess there probably was a stigma because the only people that had to see professionals were crazy people, like the people that went to Rusk State Hospital.
Right.
And that was the only people that were able to see that I knew of that had to, or people that were forced to because of behaviors that were criminal.
Yeah. But I imagine the elite East Coast liberals, it might have been different up there.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Okay. So anyways, Awesome Dad asks Anastasia a bunch of questions. Anyway, including Sexual problems. Dr. Krupnik asks, are you having sexual problems, Anastasia? She's like, Dad, quit being gross. So he gives her a book of Freud.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, it's what they had. So next day, on the way to a garage sale, Anastasia and her friends talk about hormones, which Anastasia has just decided she doesn't believe in. Her friend Sonia's dad is a doctor, and she said, when my father said that about the hormones, my brother said he knew a joke. And the beginning of the joke was, how do you make a hormone? But then my father got mad and said none of that at the dinner table, so I never got to hear the punchline. It's like, wow, what a classic. And how frustrating for any kids reading this book who have not heard that ridiculous joke before. And you couldn't even Google it then.
Right.
Anyways.
Yep.
At the garage sale, a bust of Freud falls on Anastasia. His nose breaks off, but Anastasia buys him anyway, thrilled to now have a psychiatrist.
I was going to say earlier, I tried to tell the kids very early on about hormones and about how chemistry...
Before it all hit them?
Yes, way before. So, through the years, this, you can explain to other... You're watching TV and you see an outburst and you say, okay, that kid's about 13, 14 years old. They've got a lot of hormones going through their body. They're going through puberty right now. And
it's coming for you.
And that will affect you as well in the future. So they understood how chemistry within the body could change change your mind and how it's working and how you're feeling and definitely your reaction. So it was not something that when I was telling them that, hey, you're having an overblown emotion, it was like, in the back of their mind, they're like, I know it! Damn it, I know it! But it doesn't make it better right now!
Right. But they knew.
Yeah.
They were prepared. But that's because you're a really good dad. And that's why they're really cool adults now, I think. So great job. Great job.
Thank you.
When she and Sigmund return home, Sam is freaking out because he has broken the gerbils. He was holding them and they just exploded. Or it turns out they were both actually female and had babies at the exact same time.
Oh.
I'm sure. But so Sam gets to name them, and he names them after the 7 dwarfs, plus Snow White and Prince. And now Anastasia's science project has become a bit more complicated. So she starts talking to her Freud bust, but the way he's looking at her reminds her of Awesome Mom saying, what do you think? So it actually kind of works out pretty well. She's made no advancement on her science project aside from putting colored dots on the gerbils' heads to tell them apart. But then she realizes, oh shit, they could mate and multiply. So Sam's been having trouble with this asshole of a kid at school, Nikki, who bites and kicks and just apparently gets away with this shit. I don't know, 80s daycare and nursery school.
Yeah, I mean, even in the 4th or 5th grade, I was having kids bully on the playground because I was moving schools around.
Right.
I think it was either 4th or 5th. And that was, they were still getting away with it, physically having alterations on the playground with teachers there.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that more with that age, though. But 3-year-olds, they just let them get away with biting. And I mean, they're much more looked after. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, you still have a group of maybe 10 to 15 with one teacher. And teachers' eyes are not always on all kids at the same time.
Yeah. Anastasia suggests inviting this Nikki and their mom over so she can see just how awful Nikki is. It turns out Nikki's a girl, but it doesn't matter. She just wreaks havoc all over the house. And Nikki's mom just doesn't give a damn. She's like, this horrible, pretentious woman. herself. And she just calls Nikki, "You're basic hyperactive." So the visit did no good at all. And Anastasia and Sam discover that Nikki has let the gerbils out of the cave. And remember, Awesome Mom doesn't even know there are 11 of them now. And Nikki also painted Freud's nose blue, which was terribly rude. Over the course of a whole freaking month, they're able to find 6 of them. But Awesome Mom is beginning to wonder if she needs glasses, as she keeps seeing movement out of the corner of her eye while in her studio. So Anastasia is able to catch one gerbil in there. But then Awesome Dad asks to speak with her. He has a problem he really doesn't want to bother Awesome Mom about, as she's still upset about Nikki, and this would really upset her. He has a mistress, Anastasia thought suddenly. My father has a mistress. He's fallen in love with one of his students, a sweet young thing with big eyes and dangly earrings, and they're planning to run off together and be vegetarians and maybe join a weird religion, and probably he's going to take the stereo with him too. Well, it might upset me too, she said angrily. Didn't you ever think of that?
I was kind of thinking of something a couple of weeks ago about how I got these ideas about things that could happen in real life from shows, and how I overblew them and had bad dreams about them at times. And that kind of reminds me of that.
I mean, that's definitely how my anxiety mind works. Like, it'll build up a whole situation, and like that probably second between her dad saying that and her getting angry. Yeah, that's how my mind works. Sorry. It can't be easy to live with. But anyways, that's not what it is. As with every unsolvable problem in a young adult novel, do you know what it is? Or what Awesome Dad thinks it is? It's ghosts.
Oh.
Of course. He keeps seeing books and hubcaps move on their own. Hubcaps that he uses as ashtrays, by the way.
This is a Harvard professor.
Well, he knows it's unreasonable, but there's no other explanation.
There's nothing else it could be.
No. Until Anastasia actually fesses up about the gerbils. And because he's awesome, he's really cool about it, and they find 2 more. And then Sam comes in with the remaining 2. So huzzah! So for her project, she records where each gerbil was found, and more importantly, how emotionally disturbing she found the whole experience. Her next project will be to get rid of them. Anastasia tries talking things over with Freud, but he's not very helpful anymore. But she also realizes that she doesn't hate her parents anymore, and that her hormones have calmed the fuck down. In a month, I guess.
For now.
But she's feeling better, so that's great. Until she gets home from school one day and her mom is pissed about something. First, some good news, though. Nikki has broken both of her legs and will be out of school for 6 weeks. Their teacher suggests sending her cards and gifts, and Sam is overjoyed and wants to send her dog poop. It's legit, Sam. Unfortunately, Awesome Mom has found this beautiful piece of work Sam has typed up on Awesome Dad's typewriter, which I will read to you now. Gerbils. Gerbils, 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 gerbils. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 gerbils. Run, gerbils, run. See gerbils go. See them run. My gerbils, my 11 gerbils. Sam Krupnik, run, run, run. Help! Find the gerbils. See them go hide. 11 gerbils, run up and down, in and out. Help, help, help. Find the gerbils. 11, 11, 11 little gerbils. 11, all over the house. Gerbils, 7 exclamation points. So, she's a bit suspicious, but, you know, Anastasia's like, that's some really great typing, Sam. But anyways, Anastasia has a great idea. TM. And they all agree the 11 gerbils would be an excellent present for Nikki. Awesome Dad even agrees because that little brat is like, see, Babysitter's Club? This is an actual little brat. Not Jenny. Nikki's an actual brat. Anyway, she tore out a page from his first edition Hemingway. Yeah. So, yeah, send her the devil gerbils. Awesome Mom admits to being afflicted with guilt, but Anastasia offers her psychiatrist, since all her problems, including hating her parents and hormones and gerbils, are now gone. The end. I love Anastasia. There was a lot of fat phobia in this book. That was just better for me to skip over.
Yeah.
We didn't need that. Yeah, since I don't have an actual bust of Freud to discuss things with. So what you reading or not reading?
So I'm still reading Futuristic Violence and Fancy Suits. It's been a good book.
Yeah.
But I'm at 55% and it's due back tomorrow, and it'll probably be another 12 weeks before I can recheck it out. So
will you?
Get to see. Yes, I will.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good enough that I'll do
right.
it again. And I had 2 other books, and they just weren't worth finishing.
Man.
So I'm waiting. I have some stuff on hold.
What were they called? Or you don't know?
I don't know if I can look at history. The Monstromologist by Rick Yancey, and The Green Ember by S.D. Smith. And The Green Ember, it's meant for younger audiences. So if you're a teenager or something, it probably would have been great. Just wasn't that into it. The Monstromologist, okay, but
not worth going through the whole thing.
Yeah, some people would like it. Just not good enough for me to finish. But I've got a few things on hold, and they're coming up soon. I'm number 4 on 1 copy for Hinch by Natalie Zena Walscotts. That was on the list of top books. Leave the World Behind by Ramon Alam. I'm number 3 on 4 copies, so hopefully
you'll get that one. Yeah.
Week. And
are those both audio?
Both audio. And The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. A friend of mine said that it was one of the best books she's read in a long time. So
I'm pretty sure that's one I'm wanting to read as well.
So I'm number 48 on 12 copies.
Oh,
no idea.
So wow, you could get it in 2 days, or
I mean, it says wait time's about 8 weeks on that, so it's according how fast other people get through it.
Yeah, that's totally dependent on other people.
Yeah. So that's it. I need to find another audiobook to start my work week with.
Yeah.
Just so I have something.
Yeah, you've barely been listening at all.
Yeah,
it's been very quiet in here.
The ones I've had just haven't been.
Yeah.
Ones that I've wanted to finish.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Don't waste your life reading bad books or books you're not into.
And I was telling you the other day, that's the reason why I don't have any 2-star books on my Goodreads, and it's gotten to where now if it's some 3-star books I won't finish. So.
Yeah, same. Let me see. Yeah, okay. So I did finish Song of Spider-Man, and it was really interesting. If you're a Broadway nerd, definitely check it out. Totes worth it. Hold on. I lost my thing. I had to go see what my star rating was on the one book I finished this week. So I read No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. And I had super duper mixed feelings. Like, it took me a while to rate it because I just could not, even after thinking about it a while, I couldn't decide.
You really need half stars or a 10-point system.
But even then, I still wasn't sure. So the first half is about the narrator's life after she has a post go viral. And there are so many like references to internet culture and stuff. This book just came out last month. So I'm on Twitter way too much, for sure. So I understood most of the references and found them funny. And it was kind of like a little haha, you know. I recognize that reference, you know. But like, you're rarely on Twitter. So there's no way they'd hit you the same way.
Right.
Like, you might find the description funny, but it wouldn't be the same. And then the second half of the book is all about a family tragedy. And they're like somewhat connected in that she can't interact with the world as she did before, you know, with everything just being internet, just not real exactly, you know, and then you're faced with very real. But it's really like they're two separate books. And like, they're both good. The first is both funny and it does like spout some truth, you know, about living in this internet culture and stuff. And the second is real emotional. I cried. But it was just so different. I just didn't know how I felt. I ended up giving it a 3. It might have been 2.5 though, if we had that option. But it was really conflicted. And then the other thing with it being very current with the references, like, a lot of these things are going to be forgotten by most people, even if they know them now, in like 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, and so I wonder how different that reading experience is going to be for it. And it also references the dictator, which we all know to mean Trump. And I mean, it references things that have actually happened. And so it really made me thinking, I had been thinking about already, so the movie In the Heights was pushed back a year because of the pandemic. And so for the film, they've integrated dreamers into the plot, which is going to be great. But that's just going to have a very different feel now now that Biden's here and supporting them and already pushing through legislation, as opposed to how it would have been like more of an emotional punch under Trump.
Right.
You know? And so, yeah. I don't know. That's just something I've been thinking about. It's like things that were supposed to be on a totally different emotional range. But
I mean, you find that even with like Hamilton, you know, when you're hearing the line, immigrants would get the job done, and thinking about them doing that in front of Pence has a completely different feel to it than if, you know, Biden or Hillary Clinton would have been.
I mean, you know, it opened in 2015. So, you know, originally it had been done before the Obamas. Like, I think Barack saw it twice and Michelle like 4 times or something. But then, but there was all the immigrant talk and everything already. But then, totally different by the time Pence saw it. Yeah. Anyway, art, I guess. Anyways, that just made me think different about it. Because, like, at the time she wrote it, we were still under the dictator. And, you know, it could read either way by the time it was published, depending on who won the election. So, I don't know. Something interesting to think about. You got anything else?
Love you.
I love you. So, for our next book, I really want to start, like, consciously covering historical fiction books that I really do actually love. There will probably be snarkable material, though, still, so no worries. But yeah, as I am studying history, I'm like, I'm thinking back. It's like, oh, I understand this because of something I read when I was 10 in one of these books, So, yeah, we're going to start off with the classic little girl history books with the first American girl book, Meet Felicity. I'd consider doing all of her books because they're very short. But I've got a really busy week this week. So, just going to do Meet Felicity. So I'm pretty psyched about that. So, you've been enjoying our show. Please share it and tweet it and tell all your friends and enemies. Word of mouth is the best way for podcasts to grow. Rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and all the podcast places. Find us on maybe Facebook. Steven's the only one with access to it now, so
so sorry.
It doesn't get updated by me. Anyway, we're there. And Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, Pinterest.
Say something to me, I'll respond. But
at Fighting Over the Card Catalog and Twitter at Card Catalog Pod. I'm personally on Twitter and Instagram at Just Digress, and feel free to email us at fightingovertheCardCatalog@gmail.com. We're rereading the books of your childhood,
so you don't have to.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.